Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about dungeon mastering and dungeon mastering style, stylizing dungeon mastering, right? And how dungeon mastering is done from a perspective of innovation or convention, right? And I want to talk about this pretty deeply, and the reason why is I recently experienced something that shocked me. Okay, so you can do a task, and you could do that task from the perspective of innovation, or the perspective of convention, right? And I recently found somebody who's doing something conventionally that did it so well it shocked me, and it gave me a strong desire for it actually gave me very much a strong desire to consider the value of conventional dungeon mastering. So first of all, there isn't any debate. I'm a very innovative dungeon master. I'm not a conventional dungeon master from any perspective. I don't dungeon master like anybody on the planet, right? Like, not even remotely, right? Because I don't believe the same thing about Dungeons and Dragons that anybody else on the planet believes, right? So that completely, it completely changes the way that I dungeon master, right? So that's a very significant change for how I dungeon master, and so I'm an innovative dungeon master, right? So one of the reasons why I was very comfortable with this, and I never really questioned the value of it, right, is basically the reason why I never really, even remotely questioned the value of, innovation over convention was Grace Randolph, right? So let's talk about movie reviews. So I think probably the only, here's the hierarchy. I'll say it real quick. I'm a husband, I'm a Christian, I'm a husband, and I'm a father, in that order, right? I love God first, I love my wife second, I love my kids third, and then D&D is fourth, right? Like, the only thing I think that is lower than D&D is the thing that's right underneath Dungeons and Dragons is movies. I love movies, right? Really, now that is starting to change because it's harder and harder to find good movies. And when I go to the movies, it is increasingly sad, right? Like, there's just a lot of sadness. There aren't a lot of people there. Many of the people are old. One of my greatest hopes was for a Dungeons and Dragons, for a successful Dungeons and Dragons film. That failed, right? So, so again, there's even like sadness around, there's literally even sadness around Dungeons and Dragons at this point. It's around movies based on Dungeons and Dragons. Oh, by the way, in the linked below, okay, I actually got to talk to Grace Randolph, my favorite innovative movie reviewer, about Dungeons and Dragons. So I got to ask her a question. She hasn't asked me anything, and I just texted in my question, and she answered it, which was really pretty phenomenal. I was really excited about it, and so that was really great, and I was really excited about it, so link below, you can check that out, right? Okay, but Grace is an innovative movie reviewer. She's really, she reviews movies in a way that is powerful, and she is the best movie reviewer in the world by far. But she's a very innovative movie reviewer, right? And what's really interesting is when it comes to movie reviews, I actually don't agree with Grace on the vast majority of her movie reviews. When she reviews a movie, I usually don't find that incredibly. It almost never tells me whether I should go see a movie or not, right? In fact, it's almost inverted. Like, if Grace doesn't like a movie, I'm like, oh, I think I might like that. But the reason I listen to literally every single review Grace every single video Grace does, is her reviews of films are informed by the meta. She cares deeply about the meta of movies. She's not one of these people like, oh, is it a good movie? Right? I find that repugnant and foolish, right? Like, just like That like she reviews a movie from the perspective of the math. Like, what is the math behind the movie, right? How much did it cost? She knows all these numbers, and what does it do for the movie industry overall, right? Is it effective, or is it effective, or is it, you know, for the does one movie progress the entire movie industry, right? And that she's absolutely brilliant on this, right? Like she talked about the Mario movie and explained why the Super Mario Brothers movie will change all of Hollywood. And when she was done explaining it, you're like, yeah, it really is going to change Hollywood. This is not a small thing, right? So she is incredibly innovative, right? And if you've listened to this channel, I rave about her all the time, and she's a real influence on me, right? I follow her guide as far as being a YouTuber. She works hard, and she puts out content. Does she put out content? I think she does. I think she puts out content every single day, just like me, right? I don't think she even puts out content on Sundays. Yeah, she legit puts out content every single day, right? Very, very important. And yeah, it's definitely a thing, right? So Grace is very, you know, she does a fantastic job of creating content, right? And so Grace does a really good job about, you know, on overall on determining, you know, what she actually sees and what, and, you know, and she's a really, really, really phenomenal reviewer, right? So, but she's innovative. Now, I never thought twice about this, right? And one of the things that would frustrate me is a lot of movies she won't review, right? And so I listen to these live casts. She does a movie math on Sundays. I never miss it. It is my favorite 20 minutes of the whole week. And I love learning about the business of movies. And I know a lot about the business of movies thanks to her, right? So she really, you know, really does a spectacular job of very much explaining movies from from a money perspective, right? But I never really missed getting a good movie review because I was learning so much about the movie industry, and she talked about the meta so successfully, right? But then I found Fish Jelly, right? Now, what is Fish Jelly? Fish Jelly is a pair of movie reviewers, right? And they review movies right? But they do it completely conventionally. One, they review virtually every movie that exists. They review 5 times the amount of movies that Grace reviews, right? And they review movies I have literally never even heard of, right? Which is astounding. I was like, what? Like, you know, I never even heard of these films, right? So they review more movies than Grace could possibly review, right? And they review them way before they come out, like very far ahead of, you know, they go to film festivals, right? And they'll review them, right? The other thing, and I love that. So I love the fact that I can be guaranteed, and I just found them about a month and a half ago. And I thought that Grace is the greatest movie reviewer in the world. I still think she's the greatest movie reviewer in the world. But I have been watching an increasing number of Fish Jelly reviews, okay? So these two gentlemen review these movies together, right? And here's what's special about them. One, they review virtually everything. In fact, I can't even think of a movie that I would want a review for that they don't have a review for. It's an incredible back catalog, and they put out so many reviews. They talk about movies I don't even want to hear a review for. So they cover everything I want to hear about, right? Next, everything they do is spoiler filled, right? I've never seen them do they don't even bother with non-spoiler reviews. I have to say, this is better than Grace. I'll tell you right now, I always skip, I do even watch her, yeah. I really get frustrated with Grace's non-spoiler reviews. I detest non-spoiler discussion of anything, right? I want to know your full opinion. I don't want half your opinion. I don't want veiled speech. I don't want you circumnavigating every point. I absolutely detest non-spoiler reviews, right? No spoiler reviews. So all their stuff is spoiler filled, and it's a full, robust discussion of the movie. The other thing is they get into the directors. They give a full summary of the story, and then they give and this is incredible, right? Grace will get to the point where she's going to review a movie, and she's like, "Well, I didn't really like this, but I don't want to yuck your yum." These guys are flat out. This movie's 3 out of 5 stars. This movie's 2 out of 5 stars. This movie's a 5 out of 5 star movie. Actually, I've never heard them say anything is a 5 out of 5 star movie. I love the fact that they're willing to be wrong, right? Like, this language comes from the philosopher king Madeline Argy, right? They give you an opportunity to hate them, right? Like, I love that. That, give people an opportunity to hate you, right? Like, by saying something real, by taking a risk and saying something meaningful, right? And so they're incredibly conventional, right? But I have grown a real like for them, right? Now, this is very odd because I had already had conventional reviewers, right? Chris Stuckman, absolute garbage movie reviewer. He should be ashamed of the content he puts on YouTube. So Chris Stuckman, if you don't know, is not actually really a movie reviewer. He is a failed movie maker, right? And so what he does is he squawks at people about his stupid films that nobody wants to see and nobody ever goes to see, right? And then when nobody wants to see his movies, he's like, "Oh, I can make a movie that nobody ever goes to see, but I just remembered I have 1.5 million subs as a movie reviewer, so I better do a movie review," right? He's absolute garbage. I do not understand why he is a garbage movie reviewer. So I don't know why anybody in the world listens to him on anything. I will say this, I will admit, whenever there's a movie I really, really care about, I will listen to Grace, then I will listen to Stuckman, then I will listen to Jeremy Johns. Jeremy Johns is the next one. They're both conventional movie reviewers, right? Jeremy Johns is not terrible, but he's not good, right? Fish Jelly is the first movie reviewer I've ever seen that does a conventional movie review. They actually conventionally review movies so well that it is a contest. It contests for the king of movie reviewers with Grace, right? Now, Grace is still my number one, and these guys, I think, like, Grace has forgotten more about the movie industry than both the guys on Fish Jelly combined that ever knew. Grace has forgotten more about the movie industry than both of the guys on Fish Jelly ever knew. They're like, she just way outclasses them on it from a knowledge perspective, right? But I have to admit, I absolutely love the fact that I can go to their channel and know they're going to have a review for a movie that I want to hear a review for, and that review is going to be a full, robust discussion of it, and they're actually going to give it a star rating, right? All three of those, I can no longer rely on Grace to do that. She has literally said that, like, on her live streams, that, like, when she doesn't review a movie, that is her review of the movie, right? Like, it literally wasn't even worth her time. I don't think that's a great practice, right? Then the other issue is she still does non-spoiler reviews, which I think are a 100% waste of time. I don't know why anybody bothers doing non-spoiler reviews. I think they're stupid and they should be abandoned by everyone immediately, right? And then the last part is Grace will often duck giving a real review for a movie she's actually reviewing, right? That's frustrating, right? So I've definitely put my nose in the air at conventional Dungeon Masters, right? But Fish Jelly has executed so well on being conventional movie reviewers that it makes me wonder if there is actually a single conventional Dungeon Master in the world worth listening to, right? So I'm going to ask you, do you know of any conventional Dungeon Masters who actually do the job and do the job well that I could listen to? And I'm going to take a few people off the board right now. Professor Dungeon Master. By the way, anybody who hates Dungeons & Dragons, I ain't going to listen to him. Professor Dungeon Master, I think he's trying to find a single shred of love for Dungeons & Dragons in his heart, and I don't think there is. Bob Wilburger absolutely despises Dungeons & Dragons, so I ain't going to listen to a single word he has to say. Nerd Immersion now absolutely despises Dungeons & Dragons. Jenny D, I think she was incredibly destructive. I think she was one of the main reasons Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves failed. I think her video telling every single Dungeons & Dragons player and every single Dungeon Master 9 days before the release of Honor Among Thieves that D&D movies suck is one of the greatest reasons why the film failed. I actually think it was incredibly well timed and incredibly effective in being incredibly destructive to everyone who worked on that film and was hoping for it to succeed. I think she actually thought I think consciously she thought it was a joke. Subconsciously, I think it was her hate coming out, and she, in my humble opinion, I think Ginny D absolutely despises. So you could take those people off the board, right? And also you could take anybody off the board who doesn't play D&D now, right? And also if they do any videos on Pathfinder currently, you could take them off the board. So with those parameters, do you know a single... I'm ready to listen to a conventional Dungeon Master. Are there any out there? Point me to them, right? And also, I am starting to think, should I insert more convention into my actual Dungeon Master rather than a massive amount of innovation, which is what I'm doing right now. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing and have a wonderful millennium.